Dear George, I'm unable to video this note, so it will be read to you by Dottie. It is sent with love from your neighbor and fellow poker player. Love, Elaine Laws. From the Dictionary of Elaine Laws. What is a George Volmuth? Definition: a true gentleman. To those of us who know him well, we know that George would rather have a hamburger than a bowl of caviar. However, we also know that if we set the bowl of caviar in front of him, he would eat it with a smile. If I were having a dinner party and did not know one of the guests well, I would seat George to his or her left, because I would know that by the end of dinner, that guest would feel they were the most important person at the table. George has the talent of making you feel loved, wise, beautiful, and interesting. He will ask you questions about things that interest you and pay attention to everything you say. This holds true even if you are the most boring grandmother in town. I know this personally because George once came to my home when I was teaching my 4-year-old grandson how to play poker. I had no poker chips, so we were using pieces of elbow macaroni to place our bets. George settled into an empty chair, pulled up to the table, and joined in what we now refer to as a game of noodle poker. My grandson is now a young adult and still remembers this game with a smile. Thanks for being my friend and adding a touch of class to my life.
George, I remember the first time I met you and Janet. You had just moved in across the street and my parents invited you to a party. You played the piano and everyone gathered around you and sang. My mom and dad, Polly and Gordon Potts, absolutely adored you both. Whenever they came home from Florida, you were the first people they called to go out to dinner at LaBella's. Most of the time, you were the only people they called. All the laughs and stories, they loved it. A hole was left in our collective hearts when Janet passed away from breast cancer. She fought valiantly right up until the end. She was revered by all that knew her. The love you had for each other was tangible, and the love of the community for her was overwhelmingly evident by the number of people who attended her memorial service. The two of you were a team, working together to make North Chatham a special place to live and raise a family. My memories of you are many. You and Janet came to Jeff and my wedding. You spoke at my parents' memorial service. You have been a constant in our lives, but also an absolute treasure for our community. I love the conversations we would have impromptu on the street. I was always so happy when I would see you out and about. I loved our chats. You have done so much for North Chatham. I remember fighting off McDonald's so as to stop them from building right off of North Chatham on the thruway. You led the charge, and it is because of your dedication and perseverance that they were stopped. You united the village then, and you have continued to do so many, many times since then. You went from being a stranger in the community to being the heart and soul of North Chatham. You became involved with the library, the church, the graveyard, the firehouse, and most importantly, you became our historian. You, through your dedication, preserved the legacies of those long since passed. Henrietta Douglas, Jane Rendell, Lloyd Welch, Uncle Charlie. You protected their stories. You are the record keeper and memory keeper. You made us proud of North Chatham. You got our houses on the historic registry. You recreated the trolley station just as it had been a century ago. You helped build a new firehouse. You have kept the luminaries going, and that I know has not been an easy task. You tried to save the post office before Dr. Belinsky bought it, and you and Dad worked to put it in the old schoolhouse. Months were spent on that. You tried with all your heart. How many people cared enough to do that? Many people call you the unofficial mayor of North Chatham, but I see you as the unofficial guardian angel of the village, always there and fighting for us, never asking for anything in return. George, it has been my honor and pleasure to know you and to have been a part of the history that you helped make. Thank you will never be enough. What you have given of yourself to this hamlet, to this community, is of great magnitude and can never be repaid. You are a special person who has made a difference in this world. It is not my intention to make you sad. I just wanted you to know that here in our small community, you have been a guiding light. You brought the winds of change to a sleepy little hamlet. We are all the better for having known you. We love you, George.
Hey George, Jeff here. Hey, I was remembering some things that we went through together, you and I, over the years, including cleaning up Rings Park. Do you remember after the storm and you and Mark, Reamer, and myself went down and we cleaned up Rings Park, waded out in the water, pulled trees out of the creek, all to clean it up. And that was you, George, organizing. Always have been an organizer, always have been a leader. Speaking of cleaning up, do you remember cleaning up the cemetery over by Waldorf Farms? Climbing up inside the fence there to clean off the graves and cut the trees back so the sun could come in, and we mowed the yard, and it spent a couple days doing that. That was all you, George. You did that. And then, of course, Tam mentioned McDonald's, but do you remember getting a cow and bringing a cow? And then it ended up on the news, so he saw you walking around on the news with the cow. That was priceless. Oh dear. And then I can't thank you enough for all the work you did with the luminaries. Years and years and years, thousands and thousands and thousands of luminaries we made. The conversations we had around it, where to cut it, which side to cut it, how much sand to put in it. Rain, it's gonna rain, we got caps. Remember the caps? They all melted from the heat from the candles. And then we tried spray painting, green and red. Do you remember that? Amazing, amazing. You took that every detail to heart. So I really enjoyed that time with you. Let's see, what else do I have in my note here? Oh, yes. And then, of course, all the conversations. I always loved running into you on the street. You always had a kind word. You were always upbeat. You always lifted my spirits in every conversation. And do you remember the conversation we had a long time ago? I had just lost my job at Hannaford, hadn't written a resume in 20 years, had no idea what I was doing. You said, send it to me, I'll take a look at it. With your wordsmithing and that, 2 weeks later I had a job. That was all you, George. I can never repay you for all the kindness that you've shown Tammy and I and the village. So I just appreciate everything you've always done. I think that's it.
Hi, George.
Hi, George.
We had a lot in our minds to say. What do you say to somebody like you, who's been such a force and such a contribution, and have given so much to the community? Obviously, we're going to miss you terribly. You're just such a part of us.
Not only the fire company, but in town. It's always great to see you around the post office, whatnot. We just love seeing you around.
When you moved in, we all had the speculations that we did about anybody that moved in that was strangers, worried about you changing us and changing our whole vibe in the community. But having spent many years with you, we realized that the changes that you made were good changes, that we needed to be made, and strengthened our history and what North Chatham is all about. And you never were forceful about it. Same with your contributions. You never wanted anybody to know of your contributions. Some of them you had to let people know, but I have notes from you that said you didn't want people to know it was you. And I felt bad because I know people know that you were behind us. And of course we brought along a picture of Brent. We all miss him, but Brent put it very aptly. Whenever he was alive, he would say, George is our biggest cheerleader for the fire company, for North Chatham. You were just a cheerleader of the whole community and helped us be the best community we could be. It's hard to say goodbye to somebody like you. I'm hoping you still come down and stick with us. I guess I always remember the dinners, when you would come to the dinners and you would always get a takeout. And I chuckled to myself when you said takeout, because you never took it home, you never ate it there, you always found a table that absorbed you because you were such a special person, and you ended up being the last to leave once we got you there. But you didn't want to say you were going to stay, and you always did stay, and we were glad for it. We look forward to seeing you all the time. Luminaries, you've done so much for this community, so much for this fire company, so much for us as people. You always listened whenever you saw you at the post office. You always asked how you were, and not just out of needing to, just a thing to say. You listened when you asked how we were doing and what was going on. And it meant a lot. A lot of people say how you're doing, but they don't really want to hear it. You did. You listened with a great ear. I'm sure Al, as commissioners, you and Jan.
Yeah, a lot of memories. As far as fire company, as far as commissioners and whatnot, everybody always looked forward to you coming to the meetings. Where's George? If you happen to miss one, what happened to George? We always miss you, always will miss you.
Yes, and we'll keep you in our hearts, our thoughts, our minds, and we really hope you keep stopping down and keep doing community things when we have them and showing up. We would definitely look forward to that.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't thank a person like you enough. I know you did it to make yourself feel better too, but you don't understand. I always said to everybody, you could have probably bought and sold this fire company, but you didn't. You just helped us bring it up the way we needed to bring it up. You were there for support, but you didn't stomp on us and override us. You showed us the way to make it happen and helped us along the way if we needed it. So, thank you.
George, you are a very dear friend, and I want to thank you for all you have accomplished and have given over the years to all of us in North Chatham. When Wayne and I moved here, we found there was so much history to learn, stories that Jane Rendell, Mary Suarez, and Ann Zattel told, and yours most of all. I remember your great celebrations for Alberta Groves and our North Chatham Post Office, for the Second Battle of Bunker Hill, for the schoolhouse, and all the work you contributed to making this an historic district, and of course, your incredible renovation with David Cavagnaro of the trolley station, and now your amazing gift of the trolley station to our library. On the personal side, Wayne and I treasure our long friendship. Remember the fun birthday party we had in your backyard for Jan and Wayne when they turned 60? Jan always was able to organize everything so well. I remember our choosing the music to play and learning from her how to arrange the chairs so that there would be good conversations. You and Jan came to our home for New Year's parties and summer gatherings, and we came to your wonderful Christmas parties. It was Jan who asked if I'd serve on the library board, and both of you were so very generous in supporting the creative work I did in schools. Thank you, George, for all you have done for North Chatham. We will do our best to continue your good work. We will keep your dream alive here by honoring and protecting the history of this beautiful place and the community of North Chatham. Love to you, George. Julie.